Hello everyone, it's the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, the Japanese sneak attack that launched America into the Second World War. So many people died there. Americans died defending this great country, so let us give a moment of silence for them. Alright, now that the moment of silence is over, let's talk about something. This video is dedicated in their honor. Let's talk about the mistakes. Let's talk about why Japan completely failed at Pearl Harbor in every way, pretty much every way, shape, and form. Yes, it was a major tactical victory. In fact, it was a lopsided tactical victory. A bunch of U.S. servicemen were killed. A bunch of ships were damaged and sunk, and hundreds of planes were lost. But what does that really mean in the grand scheme of things? All they succeeded in doing was pissing America off, because they left very important things undamaged. They picked the wrong targets. I mean, they had all chances to really fuck up the American war effort right at the get-go, and they totally blew it. I mean, they had the oil wells, the fuel reserves. Nimitz himself said, Admiral Chester Nimitz said that if they had hit those, they would have prolonged the war by about 10 months. They also missed the submarine pens. Submarines are a very nasty weapon. They sank a lot of Japanese shipping and tonnage and supplies, and it really fucked up their logistics. They couldn't get food to those islands. They couldn't get ammunition. They couldn't get clothes. They couldn't get medical supplies. They basically starved a lot of Japanese garrisons right before they even attacked. And anyway, there's just so much stuff that was just missed. They also missed the shipyards and everything like that, which were used to repair, and ships that were damaged might have had to go back to the States rather than stopping at Hawaii or whatever. And but that being said, some people say, oh, what if they had invaded Hawaii? That never would have worked. There's a reason. The U.S. had infinitely larger amounts of resources than Japan could ever conceive, let alone produce. Yet the U.S. never tried to take Rabaul, for example. Taking Rabaul would have been just nasty. And so you can forget, because it's like there was very well dug in. It was so far away from home. I mean, there was coastal artillery and all that stuff. Yeah, it wouldn't have worked out well. And anyway, it's just, Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor has got to be one of the biggest military blunders in history, even though it was a tactical success. Because Japan lost its colonial empire, so many hundreds of thousands of civilian casualties, over 1 million military deaths, the complete annihilation of its military, and the destruction of pretty much every urbanized area on the Japanese home islands. And that's pretty much all testimony to the folly of their old samurai wannabe leaders. But anyway, why did they make this mistake? I think that both Americans and Japanese had a huge sense of collective narcissism. The Japanese believed that Americans didn't have the heart or the balls to take Iwo Jima, and we believed that they didn't have the intelligence to pull off complex military operations, which they did. Granted, their command was very centralized, and that later turned out to be a huge problem. See, once they made a plan, they stuck to it, and nobody dared alter it or deviate from it. It was just set in stone. Everything was just set in stone, and as a result, lots of units in the Imperial Japanese Army were needlessly annihilated by machine gun fire and things like that. But Japan really did pretty well in China considering the circumstances, but in the end they were fighting a completely different war against the US and the British and all that. Western military powers, they just weren't up to it. They just weren't used to it. They weren't up to it. They hadn't modernized enough. In any case, what the Japanese believed in was they modeled their naval doctrine after the Battle of Tsushima. Just one all-destroying, one punch, they're down. Tsushima was the decisive battle of the Russo-Japanese War fought in 1904 and 05. And it's just, you know, that's the reason why they didn't use their submarines well. That they employed them against warships rather than logistic ships like merchant ships and things like that. And they knocked out they got the lowest count of all the major the submarine fleet got the lowest count of all the major navies. The Germans came in first. The Kriegsmarine, the German Navy, came in first in terms of tonnage, just sunk. The United States Navy came in second. The Royal Navy came in third, and the Imperial Japanese Navy brought up the rear by a large margin. The Japanese lagged way behind in terms of tonnage sunk. That's because they deployed their submarines against warships, which were big, strong, and well protected. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Peace, and God bless America.